Merry Christmas! Why the fuck am I saying Merry Christmas on October 10th? Because if you are like me, a true blue die-hard hockey fan, it is on. The NHL regular season for the 2023-24 season begins tonight, October 10th, 2023, with a 3-pack of games. You got the Nashville Predators going to Tampa Bay to play the Lightning starting at 5:30. And then probably the game of the night, you got the next generational talent, they say, in Connor Bedard making his NHL debut for the Chicago Blackhawks. Fuck the Blackhawks. We hate the Blackhawks here. But anyways, Bedard versus I don't want to say the last one because there's Connor McDavid, but probably the veteran when it comes to generational talents in the National Hockey League, Sidney Crosby. So I hope Mike Sullivan and Luke Richardson, the head coaches for Pittsburgh and Chicago respectively, get together and do the obvious, have 87, Sidney Crosby for Pittsburgh, take the opening face-off against number 98 for Chicago, Connor Bedard. It's going to be a picture that's going to be floated around for years and years to come, and I hope they do it right. I hope technically it's not kicking off the season because the season will already begin about an hour and a half before puck drop in that game with Nashville and Tampa Bay. Sorry about that. Facing off. They should have, come to think of it, why wouldn't they have Pittsburgh and Chicago be the first game just for that reason? Have them kick off at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock today. Who gives a shit? Have that be the start of the NHL season. But once again, Gary Bettman fucks things up. So there's that. And then we have the two newest teams who are also going to be facing off in the Winter Classic this year, which I know people are like, the hockey history with Seattle and Vegas. Who gives a shit? They're two of the newest exciting. Let me restart. They're the two newest teams in the league, and they are pretty exciting. Seattle made the playoffs last year out of nowhere. Vegas has made the playoffs every single year in their existence, with the exception of one, which was the 2021-22 season, where they had a lot of injuries, and because they're stupid with the salary cap, it came back to bite them in the ass, and they missed the playoffs. They kind of made up for it last year by, winning the Stanley Cup, but, that's a story for another day. So we have that matchup happening tonight, but I want to talk to you about preseason first. Preseason is over, which is good, because the preseason fucking sucks. I hate preseason in any sport, but especially it seems like it's more dragged out in the National Hockey League and Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball has a whole month. They have it's not even exhibition. They have two different leagues called the Grapefruit League, who participate and do their spring training in Florida, and you have the Cactus League, which is based out of California, and I believe there's some Arizona in there too. But regardless, it's a whole month worth of baseball games that don't count. You don't need maybe 2 weeks for baseball, because I know there's a lot more players and a bigger roster, all that shit that you need to figure out, but it just seems ridiculous. And the NHL has proven in the past, when they had the COVID-shortened season in 2021, as well as lockout-shortened seasons in 1994-95, so in the 95 portion they played, 94 was wiped out because of a work stoppage, and the same thing happened again 18 years later for the 2012-13 season. They show that they need next to little exhibition games to still have a good product on the ice. So these 8-game, 9-game, 7-game, however fucking many games they play, needs to go. Oh, by the way, hello everybody. I'm Kyle Rogers, or KROG, as a lot of you call me. Well, I say a lot. There's probably only about 11 people that might actually see this on YouTube, and probably even fewer that are going to click on it and watch what I have to say and listen to what I have to say. But I'm a diehard hockey fan. I've decided recently to start a sports YouTube channel where I'm just going to be talking sports. I had a video posted last week, which I think got maybe 6 views. about the Toronto Blue Jays, and well, I really don't blame you. I don't really feel like watching or talking about the Blue Jays anymore. They depress the hell out of me. But, and well, I know being a Red Wings fan has been really depressing the last few years, but regardless, it is what it is. And we are going to, hold on, let me fix this shit. Should have did this beforehand. Anyways, we are going to have ourselves a good NHL season, and I have some I don't know if you want to call them hot takes, but I have some predictions, some hot takes, whatever you want to call them. Hot predictions. Let's call them hot predictions for all 32 NHL teams. And it seems like there's going to be more hockey teams coming, especially one back to Atlanta, which is just completely fucking stupid if you ask me. But regardless, I have I have hot takes for all 32 NHL teams. So let's begin. I'll go in alphabetical order. So starting with Anaheim Mighty Ducks. They are a young team. They have some talented players, including Trevor Zegras and defenseman Jamie Drysdale, both of which I am expecting them to have down years. Zegras has progressed every year in terms of offensive numbers. He's not a defensive forward by any stretch of the imagination. His defensive game is poopy. And to be honest, I really don't like the kid. He seems like an arrogant little fucking hothead. He it seems like he wants to try to do goofy shit and be funny as opposed to actually, sitting down and trying to figure out how to be a NHL player that's going to stick around for a while. He just seems like he has a bit of an attitude about him. There were rumors that he's at the World Juniors a couple years ago when the U.S. beat Canada in the gold medal game. They dragged out a garbage can with the Hockey Canada logo taped to it, and Zegras was apparently the main culprit. He denies it left, right, and center, but if you watch him, he's, no, I didn't do that. Like, he was basically caught red-handed, and he tried to lie out of it, and a lot of people, myself included, think he was full of shit. There's also the whole Troy Stecher situation last year where apparently Zegras got into a scrum with Troy Stecher. Troy Stecher's dad unfortunately passed away a few years before that, and apparently Zegras made some comments and really pissed off Troy Stecher, who I got to see him a little bit play when he was with the Red Wings. He's not really a prominent NHL player by any stretch of the imagination, but he seems like a pretty cool, level-headed dude, and he snapped. He wanted to rip Trevor Zegras' head off, and to be honest, when I've heard the kid interviewed and when I've seen on TV, I want to rip his head off too. I really don't give a fuck if you can do the Michigan or flip pucks over the net for assist or anything like that. He seems like an arrogant, cocky little bastard, and I think he's going to have a down year because more often than not, whenever a player holds out and misses the start of training camp or the start of the season, they have a bad year. Zegras and Drysdale recently just signed their contracts. Not really sure what type of impact Jamie Drysdale was expected to have this year, but a lot of people are seeming to think that Trevor Zegras could possibly be an 85, 90, maybe even 100-point guy in the NHL. It ain't happening this year because he has not had time to practice. He hasn't had time to figure out the new coaching system or anything like that. So he's behind. He's behind in his training, and he's behind in everything. I don't even know if he got into a preseason game. And it's also interesting to note that they waited so long to sign these players for basically very, very team-friendly contracts. 3 years, just over $3.5 million each, I believe. And from what I've heard, Pat Verbeek, who is the general manager in Anaheim, really doesn't gel with Trevor Zegras. He doesn't see him as a long-term fixture for the type of team that Pat Verbeek wants to build. And if Pat Verbeek wants to build a team that resembles anything like how he played the game of hockey when he was a National Hockey League player, which he was for about 15, 20 years, quite a long time, he didn't take shit. He was the original Little Ball of Hate before Brad Marchand currently took that title from him and has that nickname currently. The guy just doesn't seem like he would want a guy that doesn't really want to focus on a team game like Trevor Zegras on his team. So it's going to be interesting to see how that dynamic works out. But I think that both Jamie Drysdale and Trevor Zegras for the Anaheim Ducks are going to have bad years because contract holdouts usually do that to players, especially young players. These kids are both coming into their fourth year, so they're out of their entry-level contracts, and they're just, it doesn't seem like they're going to have a good year. And you know what, really, I don't think anybody in Anaheim is going to have a good year this year because they look like they're going to suck. Anyways, on to the Arizona State University Coyotes, and not much to say about them, except I think Clayton Keller is going to build off his point per game year that he had last year. I think he's going to top 90 points, and I think with his new line mate, rookie Logan Cooley, I think he's going to give this Connor Bedard kid that I mentioned for Chicago already. Connor Bedard is the favorite to win the Calder Memorial Trophy as the league's top rookie of the year, however you want to put it. And I think Logan Cooley is going to get some votes for that trophy too and give Connor Bedard a run for his money. I've only watched a few preseason highlights of the kid so far, but he looks sick. And he was playing, I can't remember what team it was, but they were playing basically their entire NHL lineup, which you see a lot in preseason. And NHL two teams will play usually, especially if it's in the site of an actual NHL team, because sometimes they do neutral site games. But if it's in, like, I think they were playing Los Angeles, so it looked like Los Angeles had their full NHL lineup, and the Coyotes, even though they are really, you could argue they're really not an NHL team, they really didn't have their NHL lineup in this game except for Logan Cooley, and he scored. Some people are saying it's the goal of the year. It was the first preseason game, I think, so that's a little stupid to say, but regardless, I think Logan Cooley looks sick. I think he's going to be a hell of a player, and I think he's going to get some Calder votes. On to the Boston Bruins now. Boston, as we know, last year had a record-setting season, 65 wins, 135 points in the regular season, and 3 whole wins in the playoffs before they shit the beds against the Florida Panthers in the first round and lost in 7. Big part of their success last year was their center depth. Patrice Bergeron out. David Krejci out, even though he only came back for 1 year because he went and played in the Czech Republic in 21-22. But a big part of their success is center depth, and they really don't have any. They're looking at possibly having either Charlie Coyle or Pavel Zacha as their number 1 center and number 2 center, and that just ain't going to cut it. Sorry. So unless the Bruins can find, I think his name is Matthew Portis. I hope I said that correctly. He's a young player. He played for, I don't know if he finished last year in Guelph, but I know he has played for the Guelph Storm of the Ontario Hockey League in the past. He's a draft pick. He had a real good camp. I don't know if he made the team or not. I wish I probably should have looked that up before I start recording. There's hopes that he might fill the role of Patrice Bergeron, strong two-base center. Maybe, but that's a hell of a lot to ask for a rookie, and Pavel Zacha and Charlie Coyle. So I think they're going to regress a little bit. I mean, obviously, they're not going to get 135 points again this year. It wouldn't surprise me if they still made the playoffs. But another conundrum for them is their goalie situation, which we saw last year in the playoffs. Linus Ullmark, who won the Vezina last year as the top goalie, really struggled in the playoffs. Didn't even start Game 7. He was the Vezina Trophy winner, and he didn't start Game 7, the biggest game of the year for the Boston Bruins. And Jeremy Swayman, who is a draft pick of the Boston Bruins, has been homegrown, looks like he's going to have a good NHL career in front of him. Played Game 7, didn't play bad, didn't play poorly, but Florida won. They were a team of destiny, as you guys kind of remember last year, marching through the playoffs. They beat Boston in 7. We know they beat Toronto in 5 in the second round. Probably should have been a sweep in that series. And then they swept Carolina, a very good Carolina Hurricanes team. And then ran into Vegas and lost in 5. But regardless, they're a good team. And, you know, I don't really think they were a typical 8th seed or the second wildcard team, but they showed some stones. And Linus Ullmark struggled against them. Jeremy Swayman came in, like I said, played well. I think one goalie is getting traded. It wouldn't surprise me if it's Ullmark, but I could also see them maybe thinking they're going to get more value in the trade market for Jeremy Swayman because he's younger and he has brighter future, I'd say, ahead of him than Linus Ullmark. So expect one of the Bruins goalies to get traded this year. Another thing I want to add too, these are all based on health. So like if I make a prediction, like when I get to Connor McDavid, if I make or Edmonton Oilers, and I make a McDavid prediction and he gets hurt, he breaks his leg or he gets injured in like the first or second game of the year, don't come at me saying I was wrong. Obviously, I didn't predict somebody to get hurt. So these are all just based on health, and I really don't give a fuck about most of them anyways. So anyways, we're at the Buffalo Sabres now. I don't have much to say about Buffalo. They look like they're a team that's on the upswing. A lot of people are saying in the Atlantic Division, it's between them and Ottawa to take the next step and possibly challenge for a playoff spot this year. I will say I'll believe it when I see it, especially when it comes to Ottawa. They've been apparently a team on the rise the last few years, and they start the year horribly. They usually have about 3 wins in their first 15 games or something like that. So Buffalo's another one. A lot of people are saying they could make the playoffs this year. I'm thinking Tage Thompson, if they do make the playoffs, Tage Thompson, who is their best forward and best scorer, he's going to score 50 goals this year. He's made the jump. He went from 38 goals 2 years ago. Last year he had 47, including 5 in a game in Columbus, and where he had 4 in the first period, which is an NHL record for goals scored in a period. And yeah, I think Tage Thompson's going to score 50 this year. And I think Devin Levi, the young goalie, he played for Canada at the World Juniors a couple years ago. There's talks that he's already the number 1 goalie in Buffalo. That's a lot of pressure to put on a kid. He played well. I think he played 3 or 4 games for them last year and played okay down the stretch. I think Devin Levi is going to get some Calder votes as well. And who knows? We'll see what happens. I'm not going to say they're going to make the playoffs, but I definitely think Buffalo's a team on the upswing. Speaking of playoffs, we're going to talk about the Calgary Flames next. Now, last year, there's a lot of turmoil with them. I know Daryl Sutter. It's funny. Daryl Sutter apparently was the big reason why they didn't make the playoffs last year. There's a huge rift in the locker room. Apparently, there were a lot of veterans who had just signed deals in Calgary or been traded to Calgary. Like guys like Jonathan Huberdeau, Nazem Kadri, Blake Coleman, all veteran players who have relatively been in Calgary for a short time. Kadri and Huberdeau, that was their first year in Calgary last year. Blake Coleman, I believe that was his second year in Calgary, but apparently those 3 guys are big presences in the locker room, and they said, get us the fuck out of here if you bring Daryl Sutter back. So it's funny, Daryl Sutter went from Coach of the Year in 2021-22 season to being an absolute disaster coach, apparently. So they gave him the boot. Calgary only missed the playoffs by a few points last year, and they had a lot of 1-goal losses, especially a ton of shootout and overtime losses. If they would have won 5 of those games, I think they lost 17 games in overtime or a shootout. If they would have even won 5 of those games, they're in the playoffs, no problem. So I'm going to say that they returned to the playoffs, and a big part of why they kind of struggled last year, Jonathan Huberdeau, his first year of Calgary, just looked out of sorts. In fact, he set an NHL record for regression. It's a record you don't want to set. He went from 115 points to, I believe, 58 last year. He dropped nearly 60 points in the stats column. He went from a Hart Trophy candidate to being a 4th liner basically at times last year. And a lot of that was because, Daryl Sutter apparently took his love away from the game, and he hated coming to the rink for the first time in his life. So I'm expecting Huberdeau to have a bounce back year. I don't think he's going to get 115 points. I think that's going to be the career high for Johnny Hughes. But I do think Huberdeau, he's more than capable of getting 90 points, especially with some of the guys that Calgary has. I think he's going to be the guy. But I think a big cloud is going to be lifted from that team with Daryl Sutter fired now and gone. And I think they're going to be a team that, like I said, they only missed the playoffs by a couple points last year anyways. So I think they're going to be a team to watch for in the Western Conference and Pacific Division. On to the Carolina Hurricanes. And they've been good for the last few years. One of the top teams in the Eastern Conference and in the entire NHL. I think they're going to regress a little bit. I don't know how they do it. Last year they lost 2 of their top players. They only had Max Pacioretty for about 5 games before he re-tore his Achilles. Poor bastard. And Andrei Svechnikov, is coming back healthy. He's a hell of a player, but I think there's just going to be some regression in Carolina. I think a big part of it might be due to goaltending, and I think Frederick Anderson, whatever you want to call him, I think Fred loses his starting job, and I think it goes to Peter Kochetkov. I hope I said that right. I think Peter Kochetkov looks like a decent young goalie, and I think he's going to come in and steal the starter's job from Frederick Anderson, because Freddie always seems to get hurt, especially when his team's, battling down the stretch. And it just seems like he's not going to do it anymore. He's getting old, and I just think he's running out of steam in Carolina. Sorry, I'm running out of steam right now. Better take a swig here of some water. Sorry about that, folks. All right, Chicago Blackhawks. I told you they have Connor Bedard. I'm not going to make a Connor Bedard prediction. That's easy. A lot of people say he's the odds-on favorite to win the Calder Memorial Trophy as Rookie of the Year. I'm going to say that the number 1 overall pick is going to have a huge impact on another guy that went number 1 overall. The number 1 overall pick from the 2010 entry draft, Taylor Hall. His first year in Chicago, he got dumped by Boston, basically in a salary dump trade. He got traded from Boston to Chicago. I think he's going to have his best season since 2018 when he won the Hart Memorial Trophy as the league MVP, when he led the Devils to the playoffs, kind of in a surprising run. They weren't expected to make the playoffs that year. They did. They got their asses handed to them by Tampa Bay in 5 games in the first round, but I'm not saying he's going to put up better numbers than he did when he put up the 93 points in the 2018 season when he won the Hart Memorial Trophy. But Taylor Hall is going to have his best season since he won the Hart Trophy. And Connor Bedard is going to be a big reason why, but he's still going to do it. We're going down to the Colorado Avalanche now, and I think Nathan MacKinnon is going to score 50 goals for the first time in his career. Last year, he had a 49-goal pace over a full 82 games, if you would have played that. And I think he's going to score 50. If he's healthy this year, he's going to get 50. I think Mikko Rantanen took a big step last year. He's known more as a playmaking winger, kind of like a Mitch Marner type. Except he's a right wing, but he shoots left, where Mitch shoots right and plays the right side. But last year he scored 55 goals and 50 assists. I think he's going to go back to having more assists than goals. And I think Nathan MacKinnon, I think he's going to score 50 this year. The Columbus Blue Jackets, they hired former Red Wings coach, former Maple Leafs coach, Mike Babcock. We all know how that worked out. Babs liked to go through players' phones and basically was forced to resign or he's going to get fired. So I think the Blue Jackets are going to use that fucked up situation with Babcock. They're going to rally around it. They're going to push for a playoff spot because last year they were dead last in the league. I think Adam Fantilli could put up some Calder Trophy votes as well, as long as he doesn't run into TJ Oshie. If you have not seen that hit from the other night, YouTube it after you're done watching this video. But YouTube TJ Oshie, Adam Fantilli. If you're a hockey fan, you love physical hockey, you will not be disappointed. On to the Dallas Stars. I think they're going to be a good team this year. They made it to the Western Finals last year before losing to Vegas. I think their goaltender, Jake Ottinger, is going to get some Vezina Trophy votes, and I think their top defenseman, Miro Heiskanen, is going to get some. Is going to be I'm going to say it. He's going to be a finalist for the Norris Trophy if he stays healthy this year. He's really good. My Detroit Red Wings. Oh, yes, the Detroit Red Wings. God, I don't have much hope for my team this year. We have Moritz Seider on defense. And then after that, we have the likes of Ben Sherratt, Jeff Petrie, Justin fucking Hall. Justin Hall is so bad that he played for the Maple Leafs, if you don't know, for about 6 years. It was really not good at really any aspect of hockey. When Steve Yzerman decided to sign him to some ridiculous contract for some reason, which is just not... Stevie and I need to talk about that contract. That's horseshit. But when he signed Justin Hall for 3 years, I got texts from Maple Leaf fans saying, thank you. I didn't sign him. My team did. But you're welcome, dickheads. Anyways, I think with Andre Vasilevsky in Tampa Bay being injured this year, I think one of Ottawa, Buffalo, or Detroit, hopefully Detroit, will sneak into a playoff spot. And I think a big reason for that will be Alex DeBrincat, the new guy in town, homegrown player. I think he's going to score 40 goals. He's going to be the first Red Wing to score 40 since Marian Hossa in the 2008-2009 season. And I mentioned Moritz Seider. I think he's going to get some Norris votes. I'm not saying he's going to be a finalist, but I think he'll finish top 10 in voting. Now we're going to go to the Edmonton Oilers. I just think Connor McDavid, I don't think he's satisfied with one season with 150 points. I think he's going to do it again this year. And the main reason why, I know he's not really focused on stats, and a lot of people are saying it's cup or bust for Edmonton this year. I'm not going to make a Stanley Cup prediction before the season even starts. But McDavid needs 150 more points exactly to get to 1,000. I think he's going to do it this year. I think it's going to be one of those things he's just going to breeze through 120 points like he's done the last few years, and then be like, oh shit, I kind of want to get 1,000 before the season's over. So I think he's going to do that. I think Leon Draisaitl is going to get 130 points this year. I will say Edmonton has a good chance to do some damage this year. Matthias Ekholm was a huge addition to the team last year at the trade deadline. He really solidified that defense core. And I think they could do it, but they need some help. They need Evan Bouchard to step up defensively as well. He looks like he could be a great power play quarterback, but they need more help from him. And they need help from the likes of Darnell Nurse. That's what I just drawn a blank on him. They need Darnell Nurse to play up to his capability. But yes, I think not really a hot take here, but Connor McDavid's going to score another 150 point season, and he's going to get 1,000 points, or his 1,000th career point by the end of the season. Florida, they made the Stanley Cup Finals last year. And a big part of that was Matthew Tkachuk, 40 goals, 69, very nice assist for 109 points in his first year after the trade out of Calgary to Florida. Matthew Tkachuk's going to be like his old man and score 50 this year. He's going to score 50, and I think it's going to be... Oh, hello, computer. He's going to score 50, and I think Spencer Knight, who entered the NHL Player Assistance Program last year, more often than not, that is due to either substance abuse issues or alcohol issues. Spencer Knight, neither one of those happened, fortunately. Spencer Knight actually had issues with OCD, constantly washing his hands and doing like weird shit like that. He decided he needed help, and he went and got it, and I think he's going to come back. He's currently in the AHL, but he's going to come back, I think, and steal the job from Sergei Bobrovsky. And I love Bob, but last year was kind of a fluke. You know, he hasn't really played that well since he signed with Florida. He got hot at the right time, pushed Alex Lyon, who now plays for the Red Wings, out of the starting job, which he took from Bobrovsky when Spencer Knight entered the player assistant program. Anyways, Spencer Knight is going to be the starting goalie for the Florida Panthers going down the stretch, and if they make the playoffs this year, he's going to be the starter for game one of the playoffs. The LA Kings, really not much to say about them. Pierre-Luc Dubois, I don't really like the guy. He seems like a little bitch, always complaining about the city that he plays in. Now he's in LA. He's not going to like LA because it's too sunny there. I don't know. But I think with his addition to the lineup, I think Quinton Byfield, who I've said from the get-go, I don't really like him as a second overall pick. I think he was way too hyped. I think LA is going to give up on him. I think he's getting traded this year. Quinton Byfield, bye-bye out of LA. Don't know where you're going, but it's not going to be in Tinseltown. On to the Minnesota Wild. Kirill Kaprizov, hell of a player. He's scored 47 goals a couple years ago, and he's an over point per game player in the NHL for his career, which is a huge accomplishment. I think Kaprizov is the first Minnesota Wild player to score 50 goals in a season. He's going to do it this year. On to Montreal. The Montreal Canadiens, not expecting much from them this year. They're continuing their rebuild. They're going to continue to stockpile draft picks and prospects. But one player who's currently on their team, who was a draft pick of theirs, I believe in 2018, one of those 2 years, Cole Caulfield. If he's healthy, he's scoring 35-plus goals this year, even on a garbage team. Even if it's just him and Nick Suzuki by themselves, which looks like it's going to be the case for their offense. A few goals here and there from guys like Gallagher and Josh Anderson if they're still on the team by the time the trade deadline rolls around. Cole Caulfield is going to score 35 goals this year. UC Saros for the Nashville Predators. Sorry, we're on to the Nashville Predators now. UC Saros has been one of the best goalies in the league for the last few years, pretty much since COVID happened. Nashville's entering what looks to be a rebuild. They don't really have a lot going on, and I think they could get a huge return for UC Saros, a guy that has 2 years left on his deal. So I think UC Saros, especially if Nashville's not really that hot, like if their record's really shit at the deadline, watch for UC Saros to get traded for a package. UC Saros getting traded out of Nashville. The New Jersey Devils, last year they came out of nowhere, had 112 points after having 64 in 2021-22, They came out of nowhere. They had a lot of guys had a lot of career years. One of them being Jack Hughes, the first overall pick from the 2019 draft. He had a career-high 99 points last year with 43 goals and 56 assists. Jack Hughes is going to be the first New Jersey Devil to score 100 points in a season this year. But that being said, the team will take a step back and they will not hit 100 points. They will finish in a playoff spot, probably top 3 in the Metropolitan Division, but the New Jersey Devils will take a step back where Jack Hughes will take a step forward. That being said, I still think the Devils are a very good team, and I think they are going to do well this year. A team that I'm not really expecting much for is the New York Islanders, but I think Matthew Barzal is a very exciting player, especially if he's playing in a more offensive-minded system, which it seemed like Lane Lambert, their coach from last year, really seemed to focus on. So I think Matthew Barzal is going to go back to what he did when he won the Rookie of the Year trophy, and I think he's going to record over 80 points this year. The New York Rangers, they have 6 players on their leadership group. That is stupid. That is just flat out stupid. They're idiots. One of those guys is a pure offensive defenseman by the name of Adam Fox. He actually won the Norris Trophy in the COVID-shortened season of 2021. And I think his teammate and defense partner, Keandre Miller, is going to finish higher in Norris Trophy voting than Adam Fox. That being said, I'm not saying Keandre Miller is going to win the Norris Trophy. I'm not saying he's going to be a finalist for it. But if you check hockeyreference.com at the end of the season, I'm predicting Keandre Miller's name will be higher on the Norris Trophy voting list than Adam Fox. Big reason for that, he keeps increasing his offensive production. Now, I know I've said for years I think the NHL just focuses on the highest scoring defenseman or higher scoring defenseman. Case in point, why Carlson won the Norris last year, despite being absolute dog shit defensively and being on a terrible team. He put up over 100 points, which has not happened by a defenseman in over 30 years. So they basically just gave him the Norris Trophy and said, here you go. But Keandre Miller, he keeps increasing his offensive production, which is, again, something they look for when it comes to Norris Trophy voting. He went from 20 points to 43 last year. He had 9 goals, 34 assists. I think he's going to just keep increasing that with more confidence and more playing time and just more experience. So look for Keandre Miller to finish higher in Norris Trophy voting than Adam Fox. The Ottawa Senators. Is this the year? We've heard it the last few years. Pierre Dorian a couple years ago even said the rebuild's over. Apparently not, Pierre. They haven't been close to the playoffs. Now, last year they made a few moves to kind of put themselves in a better position. They have Jacob Chikrin on the blue line now. But one guy that really stood out last year was Jake Sanderson. He played 77 games and earned himself an 8-year contract. Yeah, that's a thing. But I think he's going to finish top 10 in Norris votes because he's that good. He is sick. He is so sick. Number 85 for your Ottawa Senators. Look for Jake Sanderson to finish top 10 in Norris votes. And I think Brady Tkachuk, who's always been one of my favorite players since he entered the league, Brady Tkachuk's going to score 40 goals for the first time in his career. Will Ottawa make the playoffs? I hope the hell not. Not unless Detroit gets in too. But we'll see. And I think, moving on to a team that has sucked for a number of years, the Philadelphia Flyers. Carter Hart has been the whipping boy for a lot of criticism over the years. His save percentages hasn't always been good, especially 3 years ago when he had an 877. Yeah, that's right, 877 save percentage. You could go, like, I don't even know what the hell an 877 save percentage looks like, but it's garbage. I think his save percentage is going to be above 910 this year. So basically, Carter Hart's going to stop at least 91% of the shots he faces this year. That being said, the Flyers still suck, and it's going to be a well-earned 910 or above save percentage for him. I mentioned Erik Karlsson earlier. Erik Karlsson got traded from the San Jose Sharks to the Pittsburgh Penguins. It's basically going from a young team with no real prospects that's trying to be up and coming, but they're just young and bad right now, to a nursing home, because Pittsburgh is old, and Erik Karlsson is not getting any younger. I think Pittsburgh's going to return to the playoffs, but I think he's going to score fewer than 70 points. It could be because of age, regression, getting back to reality, or the fact that he's injured a lot. He was relatively healthy last year, but I think Erik Karlsson is going to record fewer than 70 points on a Pittsburgh Penguins team that's going to return to the playoffs after missing for the first time since 2006 last year. So, mark my words. Penguins return to the playoffs, but Erik Karlsson will score fewer than 70 points. You know what's fewer than 70 points, folks? 69. Very nice. Erik Karlsson's old team is the San Jose Sharks. Like I said, they are a young team, and I think they're trying to get younger. A lot of people have predicted they're going to finish dead last in the league. And I think if that's happening, or looks like it's going to happen at the trade deadline, longtime San Jose Sharks Logan Couture and Thomas Hertl, gone. Pack your shit. You're out of here. You're traded. You know, I think they'd be welcome to it. I think they'd want to go and play for a competitive team, and that's usually what happens when you're a good player or a decent player on a bad team. Good team's going to pick you up, so that's probably what's going to happen. Seattle. Last year, I mentioned Seattle last year. They had 100 points. They made the playoffs in their second year in the league. They had a lot of things go right for them. Jarrett McCann had 40 goals last year. Jordan Everly played decently for them. I think Martin Jones won 27 games, if I'm not mistaken. Philip Grubauer, former Belleville Bull, by the way, was the guy in net. I think they're going to take a step back this year. I'm counting Seattle to miss the playoffs, and I don't think they're going to hit 90 points. I think maybe 89 max. So, what's this? All right. I gotta hurry up here. It says my storage is running low. St. Louis Blues, they're going to return to the playoffs after missing the playoffs last year. And Colton Parayko, who has been a very key part of their blue line, was dominant when they won the Stanley Cup in 2019. I think he's going to return more to his former self. We haven't really seen it the last few years with injuries and stuff. I think he's going to have a big shutdown year. He's going to make life miserable for the opponents when they play the St. Louis Blues. The Tampa Bay Lightning. Andre Vasilevsky is injured. They've lost key players every year, it seems like, for the last number of years. I think they're going to struggle to make the playoffs. I'm not saying they're going to miss. I'm not saying they're going to make it. I just think it's going to be a struggle. If they get in, they're going to be a wild card team, or in the old NHL, or how it should be, I think they're going to finish anywhere from 6th to 8th in the conference. They're going to struggle to make the playoffs, but I think they'll still get in. The Toronto Maple Leafs. Austin Matthews will score 50 goals. There you go. And they'll go further than they did last year. They might even make it to Game 7 of the second round. Vancouver. The Vancouver Canucks are going to trade either Elias Pettersson or Brock Besser. If they can't get an extension done with Pettersson, I think he's gone. If they can't work out some sort of deal, or if Besser's just not having a good time, he's gone. The Vegas Golden Knights, you're not going to win the Stanley Cup for a second year in a row. You're probably still going to go on a ridiculous playoff run and have a great regular season, but it's so hard to repeat. It's so hard to repeat. You might make it to the finals, but I don't think you're going to win it. So Vegas is not going to repeat. Washington Capitals, Alexander Ovechkin is going to continue his chase for goal number 895, which will make him the all-time leading goal scorer in hockey history. But that boy ain't scoring 40. Not happening. He will top out at 39 goals. I just think age is starting to catch up to him a little bit. He had 42 last year. I think he's going to keep declining. That being said, he's going to stay around in the league, and he's going to keep scoring at least 30 goals probably every year, and he's going to break Gretzky's record in the next few years. It's going to happen, folks. And the Winnipeg Jets, they recently just signed Mark Scheifele and Connor Hellebuck to identical 7-year extensions, each worth $8.5 million per season, and they are going to regret those deals sooner rather than later, maybe even this year. There were talks of a divide in the Winnipeg locker room the last few years when Blake Wheeler was there. He's the former captain. They stripped him of the captaincy, and they still didn't really do much. They got off to a hot start last year, really struggled down the stretch. In fact, the start of their decline was actually a loss to my Detroit Red Wings. Detroit beat them 7-5. Moritz Seider had 4 assists in that game. He's going to keep having 4 assist games because he's great. Said it. But regardless, Winnipeg's going to regret those extensions maybe even this year before they officially kick in, because Scheifele and Hellebuck have a year left on the contract, on their old contracts, before the new contracts did. So basically, they're around Winnipeg for 8 more years. I just don't see it. I don't see them thinking. It's going to be a hard thing to see those players being productive, even past like year 4 of their new contracts that they signed. So 5 years from now, I don't think they're going to be good, or as good, nearly as good. And it's going to be a struggle. So that's it for now, friends. That's my 32 thoughts, or predictions for all 32 teams. Shit, I can't talk today because I'm so excited for hockey to start. Thank goodness. It's almost here. The NHL is back, baby. Red Wings, let's go. You start Thursday night. Don't disappoint me when I know you're going to. But regardless, NHL hockey is back. Puck drop 5:30 today. Tampa Bay hosts Nashville. And then the game, one of the best games I can think of to have an opening night. The next one versus the old one. Crosby, Bedard. Penguins, Blackhawks. This was like 10 years ago. This would have been one hell of a Stanley Cup final. Fortunately, that ain't the case anymore. And then Vegas and Seattle for the 10 o'clock game. I'm going to be in bed. I work at 4:30 in the morning, which is a ridiculous time to work, but whatever. It pays the bills. It allows me time to get home in the afternoon and make these stupid videos for you guys. But anyways, that's it for now, friends. Thank you very much. If you want more content, please hit the subscribe button. If you have some things you want to say, leave comments. Let's do this. Let's have some fun this year. I want to start doing this more often. I want to have a YouTube channel. I want to have pliers in my hands because I like playing with shit, apparently. Let's go. Hockey is back. And I am so excited for it. Until the Red Wings season starts and I realize just how far my team has to go. But still, in general, hockey's back. Let's fucking go! KROG out. Happy puck drop, everybody. See you later. Oh, and by the way, Canadian people, happy belated Thanksgiving. Anyways, that's it for now. Peace out.